Episode 6 of Wing Time. What's up, BT? How are we
Hey,
doing on this fine Friday?
it's great to be with you. Winning time. We're
Always,
here.
always. This is the best part of the week for me. I know. I hope it is for you too. So if you're watching, shouts out. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for being a part of this. This is a movement, if you will.
Shout out to the fans. Thank you for joining us. We're having fun. I'm having fun.
I'm having a blast, and we're posting segments of this every week on LinkedIn, on wherever else. It's on Spotify, it's on YouTube if you're listening. So subscribe, come check us out. Talk to us.
Tell us what you want. What's fun is that I've had 2 interactions IRL with people who've caught clips, and I think people right now are starving for the variety of things. They're looking for current topics. It sounds like that's been an interesting take. The Rushmores are fun, but also if you got tactics, if you want to hear more nerd corners, we're recording some soon. Just let us know. We're having fun. No matter what, we're going to chop it up.
Exactly. This is the unstoppable force here. So, all right, BT, you've given me a couple interesting topics for today.
Threw you some curveballs.
You did. I tried to script this, and then you came in and you audibled on me, but I'm not mad. I'm very okay with it. So let's jump in. I want to talk about our old friends at Salesforce getting their stock downgraded. Which
is kind of a wild. We gave Salesforce a big shout out a couple of weeks ago with the acquisition of Fin, previously Intercom, formerly known as. And then I got this article. It's funny. I got this from an investor, and I got this from another guy in the ecosystem, which also, I don't know what happened to people just blindly emailing links to articles. I guess that's a generational thing that changed, but if you're of a certain age, you just blindly send people articles with no other context, because that happened to me twice this week.
That is like, I feel like if you're like 35 or older, that's something that happens to you. I don't think the younger generation's doing that.
It's like something my dad would do. Like my dad would do that, and like you just send you an email with no context and just a link. We don't really do that anymore, I don't think. But anyway, that happened twice with this Salesforce news. The gist of it, which, by the time we record this, the market could change, but downgraded earlier this week based on the adoption and really, I think, like the perception of Agentforce in the market right now. And I think it's interesting. I'm not sure how much this is impacting you and some of the folks that you work with, Jeremy, or even what you're hearing out in the ecosystem. But like, what's your take? What's your read?
My gut initial visceral reaction to this was picturing. So for people who don't know, the character of Gavin Belson in Silicon Valley was based on Mark Benioff. So I pictured Benioff having a Gavin Belson style freak out about this in a board meeting, maybe bring in like an elephant or something to make some sort of zoological claim. But yeah, I think it's pretty wild that they've built this entire component of their platform that basically investors are now saying is vaporware. So Agentforce as a project isn't there. Agentforce has been around for years, right, BT?
At least 2 years, at least publicly talked about for 2 years.
Yeah. So the fact it truly makes you wonder at these vast companies with, all these engineers on their team, all the resources at their disposal. I've worked inside big companies a little bit and seen some of this, but like it's always perplexed me how these guys can't create. It's so hard for them to create new products sometimes.
Well, I think, and look, first of all, Jeremy's opinions of it are his own. Benioff, we're still buds. We're still cool. And that's not me. But, the thing that strikes me, and this is beyond just this one article, but I do think we're having like what feels like the Wall Street / just the news is having this visceral pushback against like kind of, I don't know, like the productization of SaaS, or excuse me, of AI. The productization of like AI is having this like blowback right now. And while you still have like, Fable gets released, and I think there's a lot of folks who are the positive excitement on new models and the capabilities, but it's all tinged with this big negative perception. It seems like, at least from the execution of these and like, how do you bring these to the customer? And it's interesting because that's not that's not really what we see in the market, at Ambition. We're delivering, AI that helps you coach people, manage people, capture more signal about what's happening with your individual sales reps and your teams and your managers. And, you know, at our level, it feels like people are hungry for more stuff and hungry for how can I, bring AI to that conversation. So it was surprising when this got forwarded to me twice, like, I don't know if that's a Salesforce problem or if it's just like this general headwind where people are like, oh, I'm done hearing about like Salesforce selling more AI. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
weird. I read the whole thing, the whole like analyst thing, and I'm like, it seems just like an ornery perspective of some Wall Street guy.
It did. I mean, this was based on, according to the article, I guess Bank is the one
Shout
who
outs to KeyBank.
downgraded them.
We're friends. We love you guys.
Yeah, based on talking to customers who are not happy with their experience with Agentforce. I don't know. I mean, I guess I can't think of like a company that's really integrated a major enterprise juggernaut that's been around for 20 years that's really made AI core part of what they're doing. I guess Microsoft with their OpenAI partnership, and like, I mean, Google has Gemini, but those are like not like those aren't SaaS companies. I mean, Microsoft, I guess, kind of is, but
so
like
big. It's like on a scale that's like so large.
Yeah, it transcends it. Whereas Salesforce has always been pure SaaS. So
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone has really done this yet, and it's maybe like it's just some uncertainty about what does that even look like. What's it going to look like when it's done successfully? So
I'll add one more little piece in. We can move on to the next one because I don't want to drag our guys anymore. But one of the thing that when we're speaking with customers and when we see people asking questions about, and there's another company out there that rhymes with wrong. You can fill in the blank. A lot of the packaging, back to your point about they have big engineering teams, they have like lots of products or complex products. And some of this, and I think Agentforce falls into this category a little bit, it's the thing you already had. And you like, the Anthony Bourdain, RIP Anthony Bourdain skit in, what's the movie I'm thinking of? Where he's like making the soup.
you're thinking of The
Big
Big Short. Yeah.
So Anthony Bourdain has like fish. It's not fresh fish anymore. He's like, yeah, you got like 3-day-old halibut, and you like put it into, and now it's the soup
whole
of the
new
day.
thing.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's
whole new thing. And like, I think that Agentforce to an extent, some of these other products where, once again, rhymes with wrong. It's like they already had a good thing. They had a thing that a lot of people use, but they're like chasing the flash and they're chasing the hype. And so, it's the Bourdain thing. It's a whole new thing. You throw like Agentforce on it, and really, that I think may not be meeting the expectations of the hype that's being put out there. And I don't think it's bad. It's just like you're pushing hard on something that may not be flashy enough.
Yeah, I agree. Or you're forcing something, you're shoehorning something that's not really germane to what your core customers want. I'll give you an example of a company that I think is using AI in a new way that makes perfect sense for their customer base, and it's working. And that's like Nextiva. So Nextiva is a VoIP system, and they've been crushing it recently. They have an AI contact center solution now where you call in and it's like, an AI answering the phone for you. That's like, I know for a fact that's flying off the shelves for them, but that's because that's a logical extension of what their core business is, which is a business phone system, And I think that like that's when you're doing that versus you're trying to like overexpand or overreach, then it's easier to sell that. It's more native to what your customers already are looking for. So I mean, maybe there's some of that in play, with what Salesforce has been doing in the AI space.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll speak on the customer behalf that we see, and I think this is going to be instructive for all of us who are doing really cool things. Like the stuff that we're capable of doing now is so cool, and we're like innovating at such a cool level, even in Ambition, what we're doing. But ultimately, like more so than ever, I think the customer is like, hey, I have a dream. I have this problem. I have this initiative, and I'm just trying to solve this one thing. And like, how can you harness what you have and the capabilities of your software and tools? How can you work with our other ones? And how can you put it together to give me this one thing. And I think part of the problem is everyone's trying to like boil the ocean all at once.
Yes.
And they're like, let me show you all the stuff we can have. I have the buffet and all the buffet is mid. And it's like,
Yes.
they're just like, I want this one thing. Like, tell me if you can do this one thing that is relevant to your tooling or your capabilities. And I think that's been a big, instructive thing for us, at least, is like these enterprise customers where you got a CRO or RevOps team or whatever. And they're like, look, we're trying to solve this one problem and you can be a part of this chain and you can use the AI tools we're bringing to bear. So yeah, I think that may be a little bit of like, you're boiling the ocean. People aren't interested in it yet. They don't want the whole buffet. They want the a la carte menu. And I think that could be another problem to it.
Dude, we saw this a few years ago. I felt like when it was like the sales lofts and the Clarys of the world, and the rhymes with wrongs. They all were expanding into like being these all-in-one sales. Like we're gonna do everything, and you're gonna be able to do outreach. You're gonna have reporting, pipeline stuff. Like it became unwieldy, and a lot of these new features were like things that were tacked on, and I think universally the response from the market to that was pretty meh. What I mean? It wasn't, I don't think any of those companies would say that was a super successful gambit for them. So yeah, I think you're right, but it'd be interesting to see going forward. I think the companies, like you said, like Ambition, when you're very narrowly focused with AI as a enhancement on what the core value your product brings, then it's going to work, but if you can definitely overreach, and overreaching I think is maybe the bigger threat to companies than even not doing anything. So
yeah, I think that's interesting. Well, shout out to Mark. It's going to be fine, Mark. We're cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
You'll rally. You always, Benioff always rallies,
He's a preeminent hype man.
Yeah.
And I really like some of the stuff they're doing acquisition wise, picking these pocket innovation things back to like really specific things like with Ben.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to take you to the next one. Next hot topic. And then we'll do your link after this one. But this blew my mind. It's obviously NBA trade free agent season, chaos in the NBA. And I just love the like parallels, but also the radical departure for how normal business works and how the NBA works. And if you're not following the NBA at home, understand, but Kawhi Leonard, who is a preeminent star in the NBA, plays for the LA Clippers previously. Many moons ago, he previously played for the Toronto Raptors. Those teams a few days ago decided to trade him and swap him back to where he previously was on the Raptors. All normal thing happens. And maybe not always to the team you were on before, but people get traded all the time. No big deal. Here's the wild wrinkle, two wild wrinkles. One is that the Clippers and apparently Kawhi Leonard are under investigation by the NBA for subverting the league rules and the league contract structure through like a third party, which is on its own face fascinating and could be a whole discussion topic. The summary of that is, in the NBA, you have contracts. The contracts have to fall within a certain structure. There's like a limit on how much a team can spend. If they spend more than it, there's some penalties. Well, the accusation there is effectively that the Clippers organization and Kawhi Leonard and his representation went through like a third party to pay him outside of the NBA, which is wild. And I mean, I'm sure it happens, but it's never been kind of at least the accusation on this scale of like millions and millions of dollars over a few years. So this trade happens. This investigation has been ongoing. Well, yesterday, the NBA is like, hold on with the trade. Stop flying out to Toronto. Head back. The trade's not happened yet. Nothing can happen until this investigation comes to a conclusion, which I think has been going on for like 10 months at this point. So that's the summary. That's the breakdown. Yeah. Jeremy, what is this like in like non-NBA context? Because I mean, imagine you're doing this huge strategic change at Nextiva or Ambition or Ubiquity or Ubiquitous, and like you're like, actually revert that. The CEO is here for 4 days. He's actually out. Send him back to where he left. We're not doing it.
I feel like it's like, let's say you were going to go hire a star CMO from a competitor. Yeah. And you didn't want to like pay him like the full salary he wanted because you have a certain burn rate or something like that.
Yes.
So you pay him something, and then you get one of your investors to, his wife has a apparel brand, and you get one of your investors to go in and give his wife like a check for $500K or something for the apparel brand, which this isn't illegal, but it's definitely
slightly
playing a little bit
mischievous.
It's mischievous, it's dirty a little bit. And to give people some more context on this, so what happened was Leonard got a $28 million endorsement deal from a now bankrupt green banking company called Aspiration. Yeah. So he got this $28 million endorsement deal. That same company also had a $300 million 23-year endorsement deal with the team. So this company was also basically endorsed. They had the team and they were paying Kawhi. Notably, Clippers owner Steve Ballmer, legend, tech legend,
developers,
yeah, invested $60 million in Aspiration. So this guy, the company that is the endorsement deal with Kawhi and with the team, their number one investor is the team owner, Steve Ballmer. So synchronicity, as what's his name, Russ Hanneman from Silicon Valley would say.
I had to bring this in because it's like truly the nexus of all the things I'm passionate about on Twitter.
Yes.
Now called X, which is like startups, investing, building companies, insane potential basketball trades, and gossip, and intrigue. Those three things, and conspiracies. Those three things with a through line of, like you said, Ballmer, his finger in all these pots, the Clippers as an org. You know what, I guess not to basically assume guilt before being proven innocent here, but there's no way that all the parties here didn't get on a WhatsApp message or didn't like meet up for coffee in LA, and Ballmer's like, yeah, look, I'll just throw an extra $28 million in this investment. I was going to do 30. I'll do 60. Aspiration tree guy, you give Kawhi 28 over 4 years. Kawhi, the team will going to pay you X. This company over here is going to pay you Y. Kawhi Leonard's like, great.
First of all, I don't think this is me thinking that the NBA is being punitive here, because I actually think it's fine. I'm like, if the owner of the company
you think it's okay?
I think it's fine. I wouldn't have, as a Grizzlies fan, I don't have a problem with the fact that the Clippers did this. Like, if the dude took less salary, but was able to go get like a great endorsement deal as like a sweetener for doing this, like, for being part of the team, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If Ballmer wants to invest his own freaking money into this guy, like, let him do it. They're obviously getting something in return. I think the funniest aspect of this is the fact that it was a green banking company that had first of all, is green banking even a thing? How are these companies, how do they have this much money? Like, who's invested like hundreds of millions of dollars into a green banking company, bro? What, you get like carbon credits?
Yeah.
I'd talked to one guy who's the CMO of a green banking company like 3 years ago, and all he talked about was what a shit show it was.
There's like making up the credit. Everything's made up.
Yeah, it's all like carbon credits and all these weird incentives, and it's like, dude, like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't see how this is ever going to take off. So I think it's funny that the company's now bankrupt. Essentially, is the thing. So maybe that's why they got in trouble, is that the company like didn't have real legs and was probably being used as like a shell company for nefarious purposes or something like that.
You made a great point that I want to go back to for the NBA sickos out there like myself, but like, you're not wrong that, if Kawhi Leonard or, insert star player wants to go to this city, and part of the reason he wants to go there is that there's this amazing sponsorship deal or secondary opportunity that's outside of the team payment structure, that seems, to your point, not illegal. Now, if the owner is like involved in both, it gets gray. It certainly gets kind of gray or a little bit murky.
It definitely does.
It makes me want to, as our show surging in popularity right now, and the sponsors keep showing up. Shout out to the sponsors. It's like we're just gonna get everyone we hire just a spot on the show, and they get kickbacks for being on Winning Time.
I feel like, dude, if you're not doing that, you're not even doing it right. You know what
Literally,
I'm
like,
saying?
what am I thinking? I'm like, the next time we hire some incredible person, I'm like, yeah, so like, here's your offer, here's the whole compensation package. By the way, let me show you the Winning Time package. And there's there's a different sheet of paper we slide across the desk.
I'm all about creative incentives. I think creative incentives have helped me get more deals done, in my lifetime than, almost anything else. So I don't know. I think it's fine. I'm also like an SEC football fan, and the old adage, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You know what I'm saying? So
I will say I've heard this from 3 different companies recently, and this is all in the enterprise space, so take that with a grain of salt. But it's like golf and stakes are back.
yeah.
The more you would think that it's like we're depersonalizing or dehumanizing it, we're going more towards automation and AI, the more people are like, yeah, I want to hang out with you for 4 hours and talk about how this is going to work. Like,
Yeah, dude. Well, here's why, because anyone can build AI stuff now. And I actually think there's so many platforms available now that like the level of trust in the other company
yeah,
and the people you're working with has actually gotten more important
I
than
agree.
ever, I think. So like, I'm not surprised to hear that the relationship game is taking a renewed front seat.
Let's expand on that for a second, because I think the same thing is true at the employee level and on the customer level, and that that we went through this period of like Uber for everything, and everyone was going to be like they were going to do Fiverr, and they were going to like do design on the side, and they were going to do this on the side. And sales has had these little spurts where all of a sudden it's like, oh, there are these BDR factories, and like you go through a program, and maybe you work for this company, maybe you like go a different direction. And I think on the flip side, it's like you want this tighter relationship, and you want this trust, and you want this the company to invest in you. And I think that the sellers, at least in our world, but employees in general, are like, yeah, what company is going to like invest in me and invest in like, having a relationship with me versus being like transactional and I'm just like a cog in a big wheel.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. I think, it's a tough job market out there. I think people really want to feel like they're going to get developed into being killers who have like real earning potential longevity at a company, and
Career path.
a career path. It's treacherous out there. I mean, sellers are actually in a much better spot, I would say, than like software engineers, because there's so much uncertainty right now with software engineers. But
Yeah.
in sales, I think in a way it hasn't changed that much, even with AI being at the forefront now, because you still have to be able to sell. You still like, if you're selling a 6-figure deal, AI is not going to close that deal, or even a
I think that's
5-figure deal.
I think that's starting to become a common theme. I think once again, back to our previous comments about like the headwind of like AI stuff. I do think a few months ago, I mean, look, we're still seeing big headlines, which we've brought up before. I'm sure we'll see more of them, like such and such company laying off X number of thousands of people, and like part of that is this AI reshuffling. So I think it is like, even in go to market, there's a big, those companies are being rewarded in the public markets for doing downsizing and doing like AI initiatives. But I do think what you're 100% right on is that the people in sales and customer relationships who are good at building trust and are good at building like a sustained personal relationship with customers, with clients, with prospective folks, those people are at a premium right now. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to only over time as we automate pieces of the cycle or we streamline pieces of it, which that transitions me to, I'm going to make the executive decision. Our final topic of the day. We may skip Mount Rushmore and we'll go straight into Jeremy saving Gen Z. You shared a
Yes.
concerning article. Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, and let me make one final point on, because I before we jump into that, I think that I think one of the best wedges a company can have right now is being known for excellent hands-on customer support. I know ambitions like this. Texla, we built our entire go-to-market motion. We just hammered that messaging, and it was very abundantly. We made that like our sales process is like hallmark. That
Yeah.
we were very hands-on, we were very helpful, and people loved it because they don't get. So many companies now are trying to move away from that and like have
It
it
feels
everything be
bad.
automated. Yeah. So you can literally win a decent segment of, I feel like, almost any market right now just by being human forward and high touch from a support standpoint, from a sales standpoint, regardless of
I think that's
what
right.
industry you're in. Yeah. So, but yeah, going into the Gen Z aspect. So there was a disturbing, I don't know how much thought to put in these reports, but
It looked legit. It looked official.
yeah, it was from phenomenal news source. I'm sure we both follow these guys. Unusual Whales on X. Just one of the many great.
It's part of my three my three segments there.
One of the most millennial things about me is that I trust, like, Unusual Whales is like my like CNBC. Like, I don't watch CNBC. I listen to like what Unusual Whales says.
You're just
on
following
X.
Zero Hedge and Unusual Whales, and that's your
Yeah.
entire worldview.
Oh yeah, a decade plus Zero Hedge reader right here. So you said the story is that nearly half of American adults under 30 are living with a parent. BT, an American adult being, I'm assuming, 18 to 30. So yeah, so obviously, like, kind of alarming. I remember when we were out of college, there was people, we got the same, I feel like there's this stuff cycles. Like, we had the same thing where they were talking millennials being stuck at their parents' houses, doing nothing, blah, 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 right?
Well, we graduated basically in the fallout of the great financial crisis.
Yeah.
08, 09, 2010 for some of us. So that I do think probably was like very true. I do remember the same type of article. You know, I guess my question is like, you've got these different forces. One force is that housing prices are very expensive, at least in my opinion, in the markets that I'm aware of. Two, I do think, and I think you're going to get to this point, but you have real pressure in the market for lots of different types of roles, and especially for early career roles and for, you know, kind of maybe roles that are like more administrative, that are, you know, not directly impacting the revenue of the business. Maybe that's like a good segue here, but like, yeah, I think it's really, there's high pressure if you are not directly building the value of the company, or you are not directly capturing value from customers. You're in the in between. I think it's a very, very high pressure situation to get, you know, to grow your earnings and to grow your, you know, what you can make as an individual, probably in the early portion of your career if you're under 30. I mean, you nominated a maybe path out. Do you want to
I did. Yes.
unpack that?
I want to tell the people about a little path out that I like to call the world of sales. Because BT, you just set the table perfectly for it. The goal is to be as close to the epicenter of value to a business as you can be. Sales is as close as you can get. If you're driving revenue to a business, you are basically unfireable. So unless you're doing absolutely crazy stuff. So I think that is the path right there for Gen Z. I think they should be exploring sales or demand gen, which is the second closest path, which is where you're driving leads, you know, high value leads into sales, or customer support, where you're keeping those customers happy and helping them renew and expand and all that stuff. Those are the three areas where there is the fastest path to making money and then also making a lot of money very quickly. My brother came out of the University of Tennessee in 2012 with like a scintillating 2.8 GPA and a communications degree, and he was making $250,000 4 years later as a sales rep for Paycom. So like, you know, that sales is the only path where I think you can do that, you know, without like going in an advanced degree of some kind. So I think it's a great opportunity right now. I also think I've looked at the numbers. Much of the job growth over the last few years, it's not going to like Americans who are born in America. A lot of it's gone to immigrants who are coming on H-1Bs, things like that. A lot of those jobs are not sales jobs. I think a lot of them are tech-based or perhaps customer support, things like that, or more administrative roles. Sales, I think, is still a great job. If you're born in America, you're a native English speaker, you have the ability to come in and, really get after it and grow within a company. So I would tell, like, if my son was like graduating college right now, didn't know what he'd want to do, I'd push him into sales immediately,
Well, I think one of the things that you kind of highlighted at the beginning, and I would emphasize for folks is that, with Eric's experience, or tons of folks who we know closely, and I've worked with thousands of salespeople now over the years, and sales leaders, like the prerequisite skills and the prerequisite things you have to have are not necessarily that high. And it's not even that you have to be extremely type A or, this certain personality type. Any variation can work. I've known sellers who are super analytical. I think it's really about, can you adapt? Can you pick up a process? Can you learn? I mean, learning and probably being a constant learner is probably the biggest thing. And then, like you said earlier, like, are you able to establish trust, build trust, trust in a real way, not like a transactional way? And I think those are things that lots of people have the capability and ability to do. And from a career standpoint, the other thing I want to, poke on for a second is there are so many company leaders, and I mean C-level, CEO, who come from the sales path because they have chosen through their career, which could take all kinds of turns. It's not a straight line, but to get close to the customer. And to your point, they are if you're close to the customer and you understand what your customers want or what customers could want from you, you're very, very close to the value. You're very, very close to that epicenter you described. And whichever way is your door to get in there, we had that great conversation the other day with Nick Masters, and it's like the SDR is a great spot. We've had multiple people who've talked about that on the show recently. And I think that's like 100% true. Like, if you take whatever role, customer support, sales development, selling, like, you're going to learn, or you're going to have the opportunity to learn. You have to take that opportunity. And if you really, commit, and you really grind, which is, it's not easy. And different markets have totally different types of paths, but like, you can get as high as you want to go in an organization. You can have most of the time very much uncapped earnings, depending on what your performance is. So yeah, I love the idea of, like, I don't know, like, elevating sales, which we've talked about and laughed about before. It feels like it's generally, a deprecated and like a looked down upon path. And it's like, dude, this is a path that leads to freedom, that leads to like real bridled freedom if you excel.
Yeah. I was one of those people until I joined Ambition, where I had the preconceived idea of sales. Everyone thinks of like the used car salesman. They think of like getting cold called, they think of like slimy tactics. It's a really unfair characterization because, I think the good sellers that I know are very curious, very interested in problem solving, very interested in they basically are like, my goal is to help you achieve a goal or solve a pain that you're facing, and I just happen to have the solution for it. And so I think it helped reframe it for me when I came into Ambition, learned from some of the great, minds in sales who were preaching this, way back then, that like there's a right approach to sales where it's a very noble and honorable and lucrative profession, and is one of the best in the world, really. And frankly, a profession where it teaches you skills that translate for the rest of your life, because you're always selling. Even internally, if you want to be an executive, you have to sell your ideas to the company to go execute them. You know what I mean? Totally. Like, you have to, if you want to go hire someone, you have to recruit them. You have to sell them on the idea of working for your company, and that's the art of persuasion right there. And that's sales is the only place you learn that as part of your job. So it's a beautiful thing.
Unless you want to go on a mission. Which those folks are great at sales too. Some of the best.
That's a great point. That you could just turn Mormon for a couple of years, and then you'll get some free training. Go down to Guatemala and get some hands-on training.
Big shout out to the Silicon Slopes. Jeremy, I couldn't have said it better. I feel like that's a wrap. That's a winning time packed with current events, news stories, some tactical advice for the young folks out there. What a day.
What a day. No, we're skipping the Mount Rushmore today. We're going to skip our guest segment because we do have a great nerd corner, but I think it's going to come up on next week's episode. So yeah, we've given you all the info you need today to really go out and crush, right, BT?
I appreciate everyone joining us. As always, fun to be in the studio with you, Jeremy.
That studio gets better every time you come on. I don't know what to expect next week. I have no idea. Like there's going to be a
you're just
sign
getting
behind
mogged,
you.
dude. I'm just mogging you. Just shutting it down.
I'm going to tell the Cortland on McKinney staff, I'm like, can we like pimp out the conference room here? Because I'm getting mogged on this podcast.
Can I fix up this corner? What can I put in this corner?
Can we change out these little locusts or centipedes or whatever is on this thing and something cooler? BT has like foliage and stuff.
I've got plants, dude. There's real plants in here. There's like multiple of them. I don't know if they're real, but all right. Until next week.
Until next week. It's waiting time. Keep killing it, folks.
Go get it.